The blue light of distant stars reflected off Admiral John Kepler's tired face as he gazed at the main viewport of Earth Command Station. The year 2147 had started with such promise. Humanity had spread across the solar system with outposts reaching as far as Saturn. They had achieved so much in the past century: cured diseases, ended wars on Earth, built the first faster-than-light test ships. Yet they had found no signs of alien life. Many had started to believe humans were alone in the galaxy. John sipped his coffee and turned to his second-in-command. "Any updates from Saturn Station? They missed their hourly check-in." "Lieutenant," Frank Morris shook his head. "Still nothing, sir. We've sent 3 signals. Communications might be having technical issues again." John frowned. Saturn's research outpost had the newest communication systems. It shouldn't be having problems. "Keep trying. If we don't hear back in 30 minutes, alert me immediately." He left the bridge and walked down the curved hallway toward his office. The space station hummed with activity as crew members moved about their duties. None of them knew how drastically their lives would change in the next few hours. 15 minutes later, alarms blared throughout the station. John rushed back to the command center where chaos had erupted. "Report," he ordered. Frank's face had gone pale. "Saturn Station is gone, sir. We just received footage from our long-range telescopes." He pulled up the video on the main screen. The recording showed Saturn's beautiful rings, and nestled among them, the bright spot that was their research station. Then, without warning, a flash of green light. When it faded, the station was simply gone. But what made John's blood run cold was what appeared next. Ships, dozens of them. Their hulls were dark purple with glowing green patterns that pulsed like heartbeats. They were nothing like any human vessel. "Are those—" Frank couldn't finish the sentence. "First contact," John whispered. "And they've already attacked." The next 6 hours passed in a blur. The alien vessels moved with impossible speed, destroying the Jupiter outpost next. John ordered all available military ships to defensive positions, but Earth's fleet was scattered across the system. They weren't prepared for an attack. No one was. At the Lunar Science Base, Chief Science Officer Samantha Reeves watched in horror as data flooded her screens. The aliens had destroyed 2 more outposts and were heading toward Mars Colony. "Get me Admiral Kepler," she demanded. When John's face appeared on her screen, she didn't waste time with greetings. "Admiral, I've analyzed the energy signatures from the attacks. These weapons are nothing like we've ever seen. They're creating localized tears in space-time. Our shields can't stop that." John's expression remained calm, but his eyes revealed his fear. "What are you suggesting, Samantha?" "We need to evacuate as many people as possible to the underground facilities, and I need to continue my analysis. If I can understand their technology, maybe we can find a weakness." "Do it. I'm ordering full planetary evacuation protocols. Mars Colony is trying to hide their people in the underground mining tunnels, but I don't know if they'll make it in time." 3 hours later, they had their answer. Mars Colony fell. Of the 20,000 people living there, fewer than 5,000 made it to safety. The aliens continued their approach toward Earth. Military vessels mounted desperate defensive actions, but they were swatted aside like insects. Captain Allen Garcia of the USS Defiance managed to get close enough to one alien ship to land a direct hit with their most powerful weapons. The alien vessel's shields flickered briefly but held. Before the Defiance could retreat, green light engulfed it. The ship and its crew of 300 were gone in an instant. On Earth, panic spread as governments announced the coming attack. Billions rushed toward designated shelter areas, but there weren't enough spaces for everyone. The lucky ones made it to hardened underground facilities. The rest could only hope. John watched from Earth Command Station as the alien fleet entered Earth orbit. There were over 100 ships now surrounding the planet like predators circling wounded prey. "We've intercepted some of their communications," reported Communications Officer Linda Stewart. "Our computers are still working on translation, but we've decoded a few phrases." "What are they saying?" John asked. Linda hesitated before answering. "They're calling us vermin and infestation. They're discussing cleansing protocols." The final attack began at dawn over North America. Green beams rained down from the sky, vaporizing entire cities in seconds. The destruction moved methodically across the planet. Washington, New York, London, Moscow, Beijing, Tokyo. No major population center was spared. From her hidden observation post beneath the lunar surface, Samantha recorded everything. Her instruments captured data about the alien weapons, their ship designs, their energy signatures. Tears streamed down her face as she watched her homeworld burn, but she didn't stop working. This data might be humanity's only hope. In orbit, John received the casualty reports with growing horror. Billions dead in the first hour alone. Earth's military resistance had collapsed entirely. His own station would surely be next, but the aliens seemed to be ignoring it for now, focused on the planet below. "Sir," Frank called out, his voice breaking. "One of their larger ships is broadcasting a message. It's in English." The message appeared on their screen. "Your infestation has been contained. We will return to complete sterilization once other sectors are secure. Any attempt to rebuild will result in immediate termination of your species. This is mercy by the standards of the Voidborn. Be grateful, vermin." The alien fleet began to withdraw, apparently satisfied with their work. They left behind a single device in orbit, a warning beacon that broadcast the same message continuously. John stood at the viewport, looking down at Earth. Fires raged across entire continents. The blue planet was now largely obscured by smoke and dust. His home, his people, nearly destroyed in a single day by an enemy they hadn't known existed until it was too late. "Orders, sir?" Frank asked quietly. John turned, his face transformed. Gone was the shock and horror. In its place was something new, something dangerous. His eyes burned with a cold fury. "Send word to all surviving military vessels and bases. Tell Samantha to secure her data. Find every human still alive and deliver this message. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. They struck first, but we will strike last. From this day forward, humanity has one purpose: survival, and then revenge." He looked once more at the devastated Earth. The Voidborn think they've won. They have no idea what they've started. 6 months after the attack, Admiral John Kepler stood in a dimly lit underground chamber 3 miles beneath what used to be Colorado. The room was crowded with 20 of humanity's remaining military leaders. Their faces were thin and tired. Food was scarce even in the survival bunkers. "We've confirmed there are approximately 400 million survivors worldwide," John said. His voice echoed in the concrete room. "Most are in underground facilities or remote areas the Voidborn didn't target. The Mars mining tunnels shelter another 4,000. Luna Base has 700 scientists still alive. General Maria Diaz, once commander of South American forces, now one of the few high-ranking officers left alive, spoke up. And what about the enemy? Any sign they're coming back to finish the job?" John shook his head. "Their warning beacon is still in orbit. It broadcasts the same message. But our scouts report no Voidborn ships in the solar system." "That gives us time," said Colonel Ben Harper. "But to do what? Build shelters deeper underground? Hide and hope they forget about us?" John placed his hands on the rough metal table. "No, we're going to build something else. I'm establishing Project Nemesis, effective immediately. Our sole mission is to develop the weapons and strategy to destroy the Voidborn when they return." Shocked silence filled the room. "That's insane," General Diaz finally said. "You saw what their weapons did to our cities, to our fleets. We have nothing that can touch them." "Not yet," John replied. "But we have something they don't know about. Samantha, please report." Samantha Reeves stepped forward. 6 months in an underground facility had left her pale, but her eyes were bright with fierce intelligence. "During the attack, I captured detailed readings of Voidborn technology from my observation post," she explained. She activated a holographic display showing the complex energy patterns of the alien weapons. "Their weapons create small tears in space-time. Very effective, but not magic, just advanced physics. She switched the display to show a different pattern. 3 weeks ago, my team made a breakthrough. The void-born weapons use exotic matter with a specific quantum signature. We can create a counter-signature that neutralizes it. Excited murmurs filled the room. Samantha continued. We've already built a small prototype shield. It successfully blocked a simulated void-born weapon. How long until we can shield a ship? A city? John asked. With our current resources? Years. But there's more. Samantha looked around the room, her expression grave. We also found a way to create our own version of their weapons. A cleaner version, actually. Less collateral damage. Colonel Harper whistled. So we can hurt them. Theoretically, yes, Samantha replied. But we need more resources, more scientists, more time. John nodded. You'll get what you need, we all will. Eric Donovan has united the remaining governments into the Terran Survival Authority. All resources are being pooled. As if summoned by his name, Eric Donovan entered the room. Before the attack, he had been a diplomat. Now, at 45, he led what remained of human civilization. I've just come from a global broadcast to all survivor groups, Eric said. We are no longer separate nations, we are simply humans united by one purpose: survival. He projected a map showing hidden factories being built across the world. Our industrial capacity is being rebuilt, underground and out of sight. If the Void-born check their sensors, they'll see only ruins. Meanwhile, we work. The meeting continued with reports from other leaders. Food production was stabilizing in hidden hydroponic farms. Education centers were being established to train the next generation. But most resources were going to the military and scientific research. As the others filed out at the meeting's end, Maya Wilson approached John. At 28, she was young to be a squadron commander, but she had survived when most pilots hadn't. Admiral, I need to show you something, she said. In a nearby hangar, Maya led John to a small experimental craft unlike anything he'd seen before. We built this using Samantha's insights into void-born technology, Maya explained. It's faster than our previous ships, but the controls are unusual. Most pilots black out from the G-forces. But not you? John asked. Maya shook her head. I can handle it. Something about my nervous system processes the acceleration differently. We've found 12 other pilots with similar abilities. John circled the ship. How many of these can we build? That's the problem. Materials are scarce. Maybe 50 with current resources. Then we build 50 and find 50 pilots who can fly them. Later that night, John sat alone in his quarters, looking at old photos of Earth as it had been. Green, forests, blue oceans, gleaming cities. All gone now. The surface was a wasteland of ruins and radiation. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. It was Eric Donovan. I thought you'd want to hear this immediately, Eric said, handing John a tablet. Our scouts recovered this from a damaged void-born scout ship. It crashed on Pluto's moon during their withdrawal. John studied the alien text, translated by their computers. His eyes widened as he understood. This is their battle plan. They're fighting wars on multiple fronts. Other species are resisting them. We're not alone in the universe after all, Eric said. And we're not the only ones the Void-born are trying to exterminate. This changes everything. John stood up and began pacing. They won't return for years, maybe decades. They're stretched thin. Time we can use to prepare, Eric agreed. For the first time since the attack, John allowed himself to feel something close to hope. We need to accelerate everything. Project Nemesis is now our only priority. 1 month later, humanity gathered in underground chambers across the world to take what became known as the Survivor's Oath. John stood before the largest assembly in the North American bunker. We no longer fight merely to survive, he told the crowd of thousands. We fight to become the nightmare that haunts the Void-born. They believe they've beaten us. They believe we're hiding in fear. They're wrong. The crowd cheered as John raised his fist. They struck first, but we will strike last. This is our oath. No mercy for those who showed none. No peace until justice is done. No rest until humanity stands over the ruins of those who tried to destroy us. The oath spread to every bunker, every hidden colony. Children too young to remember, Earth's blue skies learned it alongside their alphabet. In a secret hangar beneath the lunar surface, the first ship built with reverse-engineered void-borne technology completed its trial run. Its captain named it Vengeance. It was small, just a prototype, but it flew faster than any human ship before it. Standing in the control room, watching the ship's test flight data, Samantha turned to John. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We have their technology. We have time. And we have something they don't." "What's that?" John asked. "Nothing left to lose," Samantha replied. "That makes us dangerous in ways they can't imagine." 5 years after the Void-born attack, the remains of humanity had transformed. What began as scattered groups of survivors hiding in fear had become something new, something dangerous. Supreme Commander John Kepler no longer looked like the Admiral who had watched Earth burn. His face was harder now, marked with new scars from training accidents. He stood at the center of a vast underground command room, carved into what had once been the Rocky Mountains. Around him, hundreds of officers monitored screens showing activity throughout the solar system. "Status report," John ordered. Colonel Lisa Blackwood stepped forward. At 32, she commanded the new Special Forces unit trained specifically to fight the Void-born. Her left arm was an advanced prosthetic, a reminder of a close call during a training exercise. "Ghost Team Alpha has returned from the Mars operation," Lisa reported. "All targets destroyed, no casualties on our side." John nodded. The operation had been a test of their new weapons against void-born monitoring devices left on Mars. The aliens had placed sensors throughout the solar system to warn them if humans started rebuilding on the surface. Now those sensors were gone, destroyed without triggering any alerts. "And the cloaking technology?" John asked. "Worked perfectly," said Paul Martinez, entering the room. Paul had been a civilian engineer before the attack. Now he led the team developing stealth systems. "The void-born sensors never detected our ships, not when they approached, not when they attacked, not when they left. This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. If the void-born couldn't see them coming, humanity had a chance." "Show me," John said. Paul activated the main screen. It displayed footage from the operation. Human ships approached the void-born sensors on Mars. The ships seemed to shimmer and then vanish completely from view. "How does it work?" John asked. "We reverse-engineered it from their own technology," Paul explained. "Their sensors work by detecting disturbances in space-time. Our cloaking system creates a perfect bubble around our ships that prevents any such disturbance. To their sensors, our ships simply don't exist." Samantha Reeves joined them, her arms full of data tablets. As director of Xenotech Integration, she coordinated all research into void-born technology. "It's more than just cloaking," she added. "We've integrated their propulsion systems with ours. Our ships are now faster than theirs. And our weapons," she smiled grimly. "Well, let's just say we've improved on their designs." John looked around at his team. 5 years of working in secret, 5 years of single-minded focus had produced results beyond what he'd dared hope for. "It's time," he said simply. The others fell silent, understanding what he meant. After years of preparation, humanity was ready to move beyond defense. It was time to take the fight to the enemy. 2 weeks later, Lisa Blackwood led her team toward a small void-born outpost near Alpha Centauri. It was the closest alien facility to Earth, a monitoring station with minimal defenses. The perfect target for humanity's first strike beyond the solar system. Lisa's team traveled in the Shadow, the most advanced stealth ship humans had ever built. 20 elite soldiers sat in silence as they approached the outpost. Each wore armor reverse-engineered. From void-born technology, each carried weapons that could pierce alien shields. "Remember the plan," Lisa said over the comm system. "Team 1 disables communications. Team 2 secures the data core. Team 3 handles any resistance. We need prisoners if possible, but completing the mission is the priority." The shadow slipped, past the outpost's outer sensors without triggering any alarms. It attached to an external docking port, cutting through the alien metal with specialized tools. The breach was silent, efficient, deadly. Lisa led Team 3 into the station. The interior was strange. Corridors curved in ways that felt wrong. To human eyes, lighting pulsed with an eerie green glow. And there were the Voidborn themselves. They were tall, nearly 8 feet, with bodies that seemed partly solid, partly made of flowing energy. Their heads had no features except for 3 glowing orbs arranged in a triangle. They moved with a fluid grace that belied their size. The first Voidborn didn't even realize it was under attack before Lisa's weapon fired. The specialized gun didn't make a sound, but the alien collapsed instantly, its energy patterns disrupted. First contact, Lisa whispered. Round 2. The operation lasted 12 minutes. When it was over, the humans had control of the outpost, 3 Voidborn prisoners, and most importantly, the station's navigational database. Back on Earth, Samantha pored over the stolen data with growing excitement. This is it, she told John. The location of every Voidborn world, colony, and outpost. Their travel routes, their communication networks, everything. John studied the star map she displayed. The Voidborn Empire was vast, spreading across hundreds of star systems. But it wasn't infinite. And now, humanity knew exactly where to strike. How? Many ships do we have ready? He asked. 50 stealth corvettes, 15 destroyers, and the Retribution, replied Fleet Admiral Maya Wilson. The Retribution was humanity's first true warship built with integrated alien technology, large enough to carry multiple fighter squadrons. It's not enough to fight them directly, Maya continued. But with our cloaking technology, we don't need to match them ship for ship. We can strike and disappear before they know what hit them. John turned to Eric Donovan, who had aged considerably under the stress of leading humanity's remnants. The question isn't whether we can fight, John said. It's whether we should. Once we start this, there's no going back. Eric's expression was solemn. We put it to a vote. Every survivor colony, every military base, every civilian shelter. The decision was unanimous. We fight. In the following months, humanity prepared for war. More ships were built in hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. Soldiers trained relentlessly in simulated Voidborn environments. Scientists developed weapons specifically designed to target Voidborn weaknesses. Earth itself had become unrecognizable. The surface remained a wasteland, deliberately maintained to look abandoned and defeated. Below ground, however, was a different story. Vast cities stretched through underground caverns. Factories operated around the clock, and training facilities produced the deadliest soldiers humans had ever known. On Pluto's moon, a special facility housed the most elite fighting force. These soldiers had undergone genetic modifications to enhance their natural abilities. They could see in wavelengths that matched Voidborn vision. Their reflexes were faster than any normal human, and their minds were resistant to the psychic attacks some Voidborn were capable of. John visited this facility one last time before the first major offensive was launched. He watched the soldiers train, moving with inhuman speed and precision. Are we still human? He asked Samantha, who had accompanied him. She considered the question carefully. We've changed, she admitted. But not because of the modifications or the technology. We've changed because we had to. The Voidborn forced our evolution. John looked through the observation window at the soldiers. They thought they were exterminating vermin, he said quietly. Instead, they created predators. 1 month later, humanity launched its first coordinated attack on Voidborn territory. The Yet, Ghost Fleet as it was now called, slipped silent and unseen into enemy space. The Voidborn never saw them coming. The Voidborn colony world glowed blue-green in the darkness of space. From the bridge of the Retribution, John Kepler watched as the planet grew larger on the viewscreen. His flagship led a fleet of 30 vessels, all cloaked and undetectable. To the alien sensors. Status report, John ordered. Daniel Hayes, his tactical officer, checked his displays. At 36, Daniel had become known for developing unconventional attack strategies that the Voidborn never anticipated. All ships in position, sir, Daniel reported. Voidborne defenses are active but blind to our presence. They have orbital platforms with the same weapons they used on Earth, plus a defense fleet of approximately 60 vessels. John nodded. The Voidborne outnumbered them 2-1, and their ships were larger. But numbers wouldn't matter. Not today. Begin sundering protocol, John ordered. Daniel activated the fleet-wide command. Across 30 human ships, weapons powered up while still under cloak, a technology the Voidborne believed impossible. On the tactical display, John watched as his ships targeted every communication relay in the system simultaneously. Fire, he said quietly. Beams of intense blue energy lanced out from the human vessels, still invisible to Voidborne sensors. Each beam struck its target with perfect precision. Within 30 seconds, every communication relay around the planet had been destroyed. The system is isolated, Daniel confirmed. They can't call for help. Now the Voidborne knew they were under attack, but they couldn't see their attackers. Their ships moved into defensive formations, firing blindly into space, hoping to hit something. John opened a channel to Fleet Admiral Maya Wilson, who commanded the fighter squadrons. Begin Phase 2. Maya's voice was calm and confident. Acknowledged. Ghost squadrons launching now. From the Retribution and the other carriers, hundreds of small fighter craft emerged. Like the larger ships, they were invisible to Voidborne sensors. Each was piloted by someone like Maya, humans with exceptional reflexes and neural patterns that allowed them to handle the extreme maneuvers these craft could perform. The fighters streaked toward the Voidborne fleet. They only became visible at the exact moment they fired their weapons, appearing as if from nowhere, striking with devastating force, then vanishing again. On the bridge of the Retribution, Karen Rodriguez monitored the Voidborne reactions. As the fleet's psychological warfare specialist, she had spent years studying alien behavior patterns captured from previous encounters. They're responding exactly as predicted, Karen noted. Their ships are breaking formation, each trying to protect itself rather than maintaining group defense. This was a weakness the humans had discovered. The Voidborne, despite their advanced technology, had poor group tactics. They relied on overwhelming individual power rather than coordination. John watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. The Voidborne ships fired frantically in all directions, occasionally hitting nothing but empty space where a human fighter had been seconds earlier. Meanwhile, human weapons struck with surgical precision, targeting engines, weapons systems, and command centers. After 20 minutes, half the Voidborne fleet had been disabled. The rest were in disarray, unable to form an effective defense against an enemy they couldn't see or track. Phase 3, John ordered. The Retribution and 5 other warships decloaked directly above the planet's main military installation. Before the Voidborne ground forces could respond, precision strikes eliminated their planetary defense weapons. Launch ground teams, John commanded. Troop carriers descended to the surface, carrying Lisa Blackwood's special forces. Their mission wasn't simply destruction. They were there to gather intelligence and, if possible, free any captives the Voidborne might be holding. Lisa led her team through the alien facility. Unlike their first raid years ago, they now moved with confidence through the strange architecture. Their armor, designed to mimic Voidborne technology, protected them from the aliens' weapons. Command, we're in the central data hub, Lisa reported, downloading their records now. As her team worked, they heard sounds coming from a lower level, sounds that weren't made by Voidborne. We have possible captives, Lisa reported, moving to investigate. What they found shocked even these hardened soldiers. Hundreds of beings were held in containment fields, and none of them were human. They had different forms, some like giant insects, others resembling reptiles. Some were even gaseous beings contained in special chambers. The Voidborne have other enemies, Lisa reported to John. We've found members of at least 5 different species being held captive. Some look like they've been here for years. John processed this information quickly. Can they be moved safely? Yes, Lisa confirmed. Their containment systems have portable power sources. Free them, John ordered. Bring them to the Retribution. As the battle in orbit wound down, the human forces had achieved complete victory. 47 voidborne ships destroyed, the rest disabled. The planetary installation had been captured intact, yielding valuable data. And most surprisingly, they had rescued over 300 alien prisoners. Back aboard the Retribution, John faced a new challenge: communication with the freed captives. Fortunately, Samantha had developed translation systems based on voidborne language databases. One of the freed aliens, a tall being with 6 limbs and iridescent scales, was able to communicate first. The translator converted its clicks and whistles into English. "You fight the Devourers," it said, using the name its species had for the voidborne. "We thought no one could stand against them." "We've found a way," John replied. "How long have your people been fighting them?" The alien's response stunned everyone on the bridge. 200 of your years. They came to our worlds as they came to yours, without warning, without mercy. Over the next few hours, as the Retribution moved away from the conquered Voidborn, John learned more from the freed captives. The Voidborn, or Devourers as many called them, had been expanding through this region of the galaxy for centuries. They didn't seek resources or territory as much as they sought to eliminate any species they considered a potential threat. "Why did they attack Earth?" John asked a small, floating creature that had once been a scientist on its homeworld. The translator rendered its answer. "They fear potential. Your kind develops quickly. They saw your first faster-than-light tests. They decided to eliminate you before you could become a true threat." John's expression darkened. They made a mistake. In the weeks that followed, humanity's Ghost Fleet struck 5 more voidborne systems. Each attack followed the same pattern: isolate, blind, disable, capture. The voidborne, masters of overwhelming force, had no defense against an enemy they couldn't see or predict. The freed alien captives provided invaluable assistance. They knew voidborne patrol routes, security protocols, and most importantly, the location of the voidborne Central Command, their homeworld. After a particularly successful raid on a major voidborne shipyard, John managed to capture a high-ranking voidborne commander. Under questioning, the alien revealed a crucial piece of information. "The attack on your world was not typical," the voidborne said through the translator. "Usually we observe a species for decades before deciding their fate. Yours was deemed an immediate action necessity." "Why?" John demanded. The voidborne's 3 eye orbs flickered in what might have been fear. "Because you were different. Your technology development curve was steeper than any species we've encountered. Models predicted you would surpass us within a century." John leaned closer to the alien. "Those models were wrong," he said softly. "We didn't need a century. We just needed a reason." As the Ghost Fleet regrouped for its next series of strikes, John stood in his quarters looking at a star map. The location of the voidborne homeworld was now marked clearly. Their empire was beginning to fracture as human strikes severed communication and supply lines between their worlds. The voidborne had struck first, believing they were eliminating a minor threat. Instead, they had created their own destruction. Humanity's revenge wasn't just possible now. It was unstoppable. 12 years after the attack on Earth, the combined fleet approached the voidborne homeworld. Over 300 ships moved in perfect formation. Most were human vessels, but among them flew ships from 5 other species who had joined the fight against their common enemy. From the bridge of the Retribution, John Kepler surveyed the tactical display. The voidborne homeworld system was heavily defended. Massive orbital platforms ringed the planet, each armed with weapons that could vaporize cities. Thousands of warships patrolled in tight formations. "They're expecting us," John said. Beside him stood representatives from each allied species. The tall, scaled being named Xerax represented the Linthari. The floating orb of light was Ilara of the Futurians. The others, a crystalline entity, a creature of living metal, and a being that seemed more like flowing water than solid matter. All watched the voidborne defenses with their own version of grim determination. "For centuries, none dared attack their throne world," Xerax said, the translator converting his clicks and whistles to English. "They believed themselves untouchable. They were wrong, John replied simply. Samantha Reeves entered the bridge. After 12 years of war, she had become humanity's foremost expert on void-born technology. Under her direction, humans had not just matched void-born capabilities, they had surpassed them. "The weapon is ready," she reported. John nodded. This was what everything had led to. A device capable of ending the void-born threat forever. Its development had been controversial even among the War Council. Some saw it as justice. Others worried. It made humans no better than their enemies. "Begin the attack," John ordered. Operation Final Strike is now active. Unlike their previous raids, the Allied fleet did not try to hide. They approached in full view, a declaration that they no longer needed the advantage of surprise. This was to be a direct confrontation, the first time the full might of the Alliance would meet the full might of the Voidborn Empire. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. Beams of energy crisscrossed the blackness, striking shields and hulls. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers against the backdrop of stars. Maya Wilson led the fighter squadrons on a daring attack run against the orbital platforms. Her voice was calm over the comm system as she issued orders. "Ghost Squadron, target defense grid Alpha. Phantom Squadron, take Beta. Strike hard and fast." The human fighters darted between much larger void-born vessels, their superior maneuverability making them almost impossible to hit. Where a void-born ship turned ponderously to track a target, human craft changed direction instantly. The Allied ships from other species brought their own strengths to the battle. Linthari vessels absorbed energy attacks and redirected them back at their source. Photurian ships moved at speeds that seemed impossible, leaving trails of light behind them. On the Retribution's tactical display, Daniel Hayes monitored the battle's progress. "Their outer defense line is breaking," he reported. "We're pushing through faster than expected." The reason became clear as they penetrated deeper into the Voidborn formation. Many of the enemy ships were not fully crewed. After years of losses, to the Ghost Fleet the Voidborn were running out of soldiers. "They've called forces back from across their empire to defend their homeworld," Karen Rodriguez noted. "Just as we predicted, this had been the plan all along. Force the Voidborn, to concentrate their forces, then strike at their heart." John opened a channel to the entire Allied fleet. Phase 2. Focus fire on their command platform. The massive orbital station that controlled the Voidborn defenses became the target of hundreds of ships simultaneously. Its shields flared bright blue under the assault, then flickered and failed. Precision strikes disabled its weapons and engines. "We have boarders away," Lisa Blackwood reported from her assault ship, moving to secure the command center. While the battle raged around them, Special Forces teams from all 6 Allied species infiltrated the Voidborn command platform. Led by Lisa, they fought their way through corridors filled with desperate defenders. 2 hours into the battle, Lisa's voice came over the comm. "Command center secured. We have control of their defense grid." It was the turning point. With their central coordination disabled, the Voidborn fleet fell into disarray. Individual ships fought on, but without the cohesive strategy that made them formidable. "We've won," Alara the Futurian said, her light pulsing with what might have been emotion. "Not yet," John replied. He turned to Samantha. "Status of the weapon?" "Ready to deploy," she answered. "Awaiting your command." John hesitated. The weapon targeted the unique energy pattern all Voidborn shared. It would not harm any other species. With one command, he could eliminate the entire Voidborn race from the galaxy. Eric Donovan's voice came through on a private channel. Now in his late 50s, he still led what remained of human government. "John, the Council has been monitoring the battle," Eric said. "Before you make this decision, you need to know what we found in the data from the command center." The information appeared on John's screen. As he read, his expression changed from grim determination to shock. "Is this verified?" he asked. "Yes," Eric confirmed. "The Voidborn social structure is completely hierarchical. A ruling caste makes all decisions. The lower castes, nearly 80% of their population, have no choice but to obey." John A. looked at the planet below. Billions of Voidborn lived there. How many were innocent of the decision to attack Earth? How many had no say in their empire's aggression? We didn't come this far for half measures, Samantha said quietly. No, John agreed. But we didn't come this far to become them either. He opened a channel to the Voidborn leaders who had been captured on the command platform. This is Supreme. Commander John Kepler of the Terran Strike Force. Your defenses have fallen. Your fleet is defeated. The Voidborn leader's 3 eye orbs flickered with hatred. Finish it then, human. We would have shown no mercy to you. I know, John replied. That's the difference between us. He nodded to Samantha. The weapon fired, not at the planet, but at the remaining orbital platforms. One by one, they went dark. The Voidborn military capacity was being systematically dismantled, not their civilization. These are our terms, John continued. Your military will be disbanded. Your ruling caste will surrender power. Representatives from your lower castes will join a new governing council, along with members from all species in this region of space, including humans. The Voidborn leader seemed unable to comprehend. You spare us? After what we did to your world? Justice isn't the same as revenge, John said. You'll help rebuild what you destroyed, on Earth and on every world you attacked. 1 month later, John stood on the surface of Earth for the first time in years. The ruins of old cities were being cleared away. New buildings rose, incorporating both human and alien technology. Beside him, Samantha watched as a group of former Voidborn workers helped human engineers set up an atmospheric cleansing station. Do you ever regret not using the weapon? She asked. John looked up at the sky. It was blue again, slowly healing from the devastation of 12 years ago. No, he said. They struck first, but we decided how it ended. In orbit above them, construction had begun on a massive memorial station. It would contain the names of every human lost in the initial attack. At its center, a simple message was engraved in the languages of all allied species. They struck first, we struck last, and then we built something better.